The morning I watched a bright red Corvette sitting on 4 cinder blocks in my handicap spot, cops circling it, a parking ticket flapping in the wind like a surrender flag. I realized something. Bullies always think they're untouchable, right until the moment they're not. And nothing proves that faster than watching their pride and joy get stripped down in front of the whole neighborhood. You want to know how we got here? Buckle up. Because it only took 48 hours, a doorbell cam, and a whole lot of entitlement to turn my quiet street into a battlefield. My name's Lyle. I'm 61. I walk with a cane and my left leg squeaks thanks to a patch of black ice in a delivery truck that didn't see me back in my 30s. That squeak is like a soundtrack to my life, annoying, predictable, and weirdly comforting. My wife, Nancy, says it's like our own personal weather alert system. She's not wrong. The darn thing predicts rain better than the news. We live in Fallswood Estates. Sounds fancy, right? It's not. It's a normal, quiet, middle-of-the-road neighborhood full of tidy lawns and people who wave when they get their mail. Or at least it was quiet. Before Karen Jamison crowned herself the dictator of the HOA and turned our community into her personal kingdom. You've probably met someone like Karen before. Perfect helmet hair, beige power suits, and a voice sharp enough to cut drywall. She could file a complaint about the color of the sky and make it sound like she's doing you a favor. But the one thing even Karen can't touch is the handicap spot in front of my house. It's city-issued, legally enforced, painted the brightest blue you've ever seen. That spot matters more to me than most people realize. On bad days, walking from the guest parking to my front door feels like a marathon on broken glass. That spot is my lifeline. So 2 days before the Corvette ended up on blocks, Nancy was driving me home from physical therapy. My leg felt like a boiled noodle, my brace was protesting with every bump in the road, and all I wanted was an iced tea and a soft chair. We turned the corner, and there it was, gleaming in the sun like a giant, arrogant cherry, the red Corvette belonging to Karen's 20-something son, Ryan. And it wasn't just parked in my spot. It was taking half the blue hashes, too. Diagonal. Smug. Like it owned the pavement. I snapped a photo plate and timestamp and dialed city parking enforcement. I've got them saved in my contacts, which tells you everything about our neighborhood. The dispatcher said they'd send someone when available. Fine. I settled in to wait. Right on cue, the queen bee buzzed out of her hive. Karen power walked toward us with that tight-lipped smile she uses right before dropping a fine on someone's porch. "Lyle," she chirped. "What is all this?" I pointed at the Corvette. "Karen, that's a red car, in a blue spot. Pretty simple." She waved her hand like she was shooing away a mosquito. "It's my son's." 5 minutes. He was helping me with groceries. There were no groceries. No Ryan. No anything. She was lying, and she didn't even care enough to make it believable. Nancy leaned over, calm as always, and quoted the actual city ordinance. Karen hates real rules. She prefers the imaginary ones she invents at HOA meetings. Her face pinched like she'd bitten a lemon. She started lecturing us about Tone, another Karen classic, when her son strutted out, hopped in his precious Corvette, revved the engine like a show pony, and peeled off. A full tire-screeching performance. And as he disappeared around the corner, the tow truck arrived, saw the empty spot, and kept going. Karen jabbed a finger at me. "You'll be hearing from the HOA." Then she stormed off. She wasn't kidding. An hour later, an email landed, "Violation notice, unapproved lawn adornment." My crime. A 12-inch garden gnome named Norman. The little guy's been sitting in the flower bed for 2 years, fishing rod and all. Suddenly, he's an urgent, fine-worthy offense. Nancy gasped like someone had shot him. She's going after Norman. That monster. I wasn't angry. I was focused. There's a difference. I called the management company actual professionals, not Karen and her clipboard, and they confirmed there was no rule against gnomes. Then I called the city to double-check the handicap sign. The man practically laughed. "Sir, that sign carries full legal weight. The HOA has 0 jurisdiction." Perfect. I was building a little evidence folder. Nancy labeled it Karen Receipts. That night the receipts started piling up. because Ryan decided to throw a party. Not a normal loud party. This was a window-rattling, earth-shaking, bass-thumping circus. People parked on lawns, stumbling around with open containers, knocking over mailboxes, revving engines at 2:30 a.m. I caught everything on camera. One drunk kid ran straight into Mr. Henderson's mailbox so hard it bent the post. Another tripped over his own shadow. Ryan did burnouts in his driveway and left black rubber streaks on the pavement, all beautifully recorded in HD. But the worst didn't happen until the next morning. Nancy was heading out for her morning walk. She's done it every day for 40 years. I sat on the porch drinking coffee, watching her disappear around the bend, feeling that little warm swell in my chest that only she can give me. And then I heard it, the furious roar of that Corvette engine. Too fast, too close. I looked up the street and froze. Ryan came flying around the corner like he was in a street race, 50 miles an hour on a quiet residential road. And Nancy, my Nancy, was right there at the edge of a driveway. She heard the sound, turned, and her eyes went wide. My lungs locked up. My cane slipped from my hand. Everything went slow, horrifyingly slow. She jumped back at the last possible second, stumbling onto a neighbor's lawn. The bumper missed her knees by inches. Inches. He didn't stop, didn't look back, just tore down the street like he owned it. I reached her trembling so hard my cane nearly slipped again. She tried to smile, tried to pretend it was nothing, but her hands were shaking. And something in me, something deep and cold, snapped into place. This wasn't about a parking spot anymore. This wasn't about a stupid HOA war. My wife could have died. That night I sat in front of my computer watching the footage over and over. Not looking at Nancy because I couldn't, but at the car. At the wheels. Custom rims. Glossy black with thin spokes and a silver lip. Expensive. Familiar. Too familiar. I searched online, cross-checking local thefts, and there it was, a news article about a disabled veteran, Sergeant Frank Peterson, whose custom wheels were stolen right out of his locked garage. There was a photo. I pulled it up next to a freeze frame of Ryan's Corvette. A perfect match. I emailed everything to Detective Miller, the same officer who would later stand next to the cinder-blocked Corvette like a disappointed school principal. He asked for more images, timestamps, raw footage. I sent it all. He said, "Let us know the moment you see that car parked on the street." The next morning at 7 a.m., sharp Ryan pulled straight back into my handicap spot. Not his driveway, not the empty curb right in front of his house. My spot. The level of arrogance would have been impressive if it weren't so pathetic. I texted the detective. He's here. Minutes later, an unmarked sedan rolled in. 2 detectives stepped out and inspected the wheels with a mirror and flashlight. Then Ryan stormed outside, yelling and puffing up like a rooster. He got chest to chest with Miller and shoved him. Not hard, but enough. Enough to turn a bad day into a felony. The detectives confirmed the serial numbers. The wheels were stolen. A uniformed officer arrived, Officer Brady, and wrote him a fresh parking ticket while the tow truck driver jacked up the Corvette and removed each stolen wheel one by one. The car sank lower and lower until it sat on 4 cinder blocks in the bright blue handicap space, looking sad and slow and ridiculously defeated. That's when Karen came sprinting down the sidewalk, screaming about harassment and badges and lawsuits. Nobody listened. Nobody cared. And honestly, watching her face as her son's untouchable reputation collapsed, that was a spiritual experience. But the real finale didn't happen on the street. It happened at the emergency HOA meeting. Karen called that evening her last attempt to regain control. The clubhouse was packed. Normally, you'd be lucky to get 6 people and maybe a lost cat. But tonight, standing room only. Karen marched to the front and announced she'd be presenting a list of violations against me. I raised my hand and asked for a point of order. She tried to shut me down. I ignored her and walked to the front with my laptop. One click, and the projector lit up with her fake violation email, Norman the Gnome in all his glory. People chuckled. Another click, and the screen showed the Corvette parked illegally. Then the burnout video. Then the drunken mailbox collision. Then the 2:30 a.m. revving session. And finally, the clip of Ryan's near miss with Nancy. The room gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God!" Another person cursed under their breath. Nancy sat quietly, hands folded, every bit the steady calm she always is, but her eyes were wet. I said, "This isn't about gnomes, or grass height, or tone. This is about an HOA president abusing her power to protect her son while punishing everyone else. And it almost cost my wife her life." One by one, neighbors stood up and shared their own stories. Threats, fines, harassment, manipulation. It was like everyone had been waiting years for permission to finally speak. Then Mr. Henderson, whose mailbox had been destroyed, stood up and made a motion to dissolve the HOA board and begin dismantling the HOA entirely. Half the room shouted second before he finished the sentence. The vote wasn't even close. Karen's hand was the only one not raised. Within weeks, audits uncovered years of her misusing HOA funds, paying her son's car insurance, personal landscaping, all of it. Ryan faced charges for stolen property and assaulting an officer. Karen faced fraud and embezzlement. Their house went on the market. They vanished. No big drama, no goodbye parade, just gone. And on a quiet afternoon, not long after city workers came and repainted my handicap spot. Fresh blue, bright white lines, clean, honest, exactly the way it should be. Karen showed up once wearing a tracksuit instead of a power suit and offered a trembling apology. I listened just long enough to know she wanted forgiveness, not accountability. I closed the door without saying a word. Some things don't need a conversation. Some endings write themselves. The HOA is gone now. In its place is a simple volunteer committee that plans holiday decorations and helps new neighbors settle in. No fines, no threats, no power trips. Just people being people. And every time I step out of my car, brace squeaking, leaning on my cane, and see that bright blue spot waiting for me, I'm reminded of something important. Justice doesn't happen by staying quiet. Sometimes you have to fight for the blue box.